reporting today, tragedy strikes Maryland. Earlier today, an armed gunman killed and seriously injured multiple individuals at a newspaper office. This in Annapolis, Maryland. Joining us now with the very latest on this is Kristen Fisher. Kristen, tough day for everybody there. Can you update us what's going on?
Yeah, Sean. Well, police are now confirming that this was indeed a targeted attack on the Capital Gazette newspaper. Now, we still don't know if this shooter had a problem with the paper as a whole or with individual employees at the paper, but police say this was a targeted attack, and this shooter came in around 2:30 today with a shotgun and smoke grenades. He walked through the first floor of the building, which is this brick building just behind me, and he went through shooting and killing 5 people, injuring about 2 more. The police responded, just a ridiculous response time, 1 minute, maybe just over 60 seconds. Police were there, they went in, and they were able to take that shooter into custody without firing a single shot. Just a horrible day here, but police across the board saying that this could have been so much worse if these first responders did not respond as quickly as they did. Now, a little bit more about the shooter. As I said, he's in custody, and police say that they are in the process of interviewing him, but he has been very uncooperative. Now, there was a press conference about half an hour ago, and in that press conference, the Anne Arundel deputy police chief did not confirm what I'm about to tell you, but Fox has confirmed with a separate Maryland law enforcement official that they were able to identify the gunman using facial recognition software, because they had to do that because he mutilated his fingertips in an apparent attempt to make it very difficult to identify him. He didn't have any ID on him. He wouldn't tell the law enforcement what his name was, so they had to use facial recognition software to identify him. So that's why police are saying that he was very well prepared for this attack. He had it well planned. He thought it through. Now police are going through the process of securing his house and getting search warrants so that they can search his property. As for this paper, Sean, one reporter said tonight that I can tell you this, quote, "We are putting out a damn paper tomorrow," Sean.
Premeditated evil, Kristen. Thank you for that report. And a real thank you to all those in law enforcement. 60 seconds, you can't get a better response time, and it looks like they saved a lot of lives. All right, we turn to our opening monologue, and we'll start with today's huge showdown on Capitol Hill. The Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, the FBI Director Christopher Wray appearing before the House Judiciary Committee, where they were absolutely grilled by members of Congress. It was a beatdown. We have so many highlights to bring you tonight, including the worst moments from the very short-tempered, extremely pompous Rod Rosenstein, who I'm told doesn't like me. Now, the Deputy AG is continuing to obstruct the U.S. House of Representatives and their subpoenas in its efforts to check and do their constitutional duty and investigate actions by the FBI and the DOJ. Now, House Republicans are fighting back hard. Contempt impeachment tonight is very much on the table. And also tonight, America's left is ramping up, as I predicted, their disgusting rhetoric, political tactics ahead of the 2018 midterms, and some are actually trying to forcibly shut down immigration and custom enforcement offices across the country. Others are calling for the complete abolition of ICE. Meanwhile, many in the media, well, as we also predicted, a full mental psychotic breakdown over the news that Justice Anthony Kennedy is retired. Now, it's been a very bad week for Democrats. Sit tight. We've got all of this and so much more, and we're following all the details out of Annapolis, Maryland in our breaking news opening monologue. So for over a year, House Republicans have desperately been trying to conduct what is their constitutional oversight duties and properly investigate how the FBI and the DOJ handled, well, really mishandled, the Clinton server investigation. We know she committed felonies. We know she obstructed justice. And also the ongoing Russia collusion witch hunt and the FISA abuse, lying to FISA court judges to spy on an opposition party candidate in an election year. Now, sadly, their efforts, their document requests, their subpoenas, they have been met with nothing but obstruction and hatred, antipathy, and animus from the Deputy AG, who has a bad temper, Rod Rosenstein. And today, some of these House members had a rare opportunity to hold Rosenstein accountable right to his face. And it started with this powerful opening statement from House Judiciary Committee Chairman Bob Goodlatte. Take a look.
The recent Inspector General's report revealed bias in the top echelons of the FBI during a hotly contested presidential election. It revealed that FBI agents, lawyers, and analysts held profound biases against then-candidate Donald Trump and in favor of his opponent, Hillary Clinton. It is right out of a novel, with salacious, unverified dossiers, reports of informants that appear more like spies for the U.S. government, and application of the aforementioned surveillance powers to collect on a U.S. person once associated with President Trump's political campaign. But it's not a novel. It's real life.
Real life. Now, next, the very ill-tempered Rod Rosenstein, who, again, apparently doesn't like me. I can't imagine why. He was grilled by Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan over Rosenstein's blatant effort to hide important information from House investigators. Again, this is their constitutional job at oversight, separation of powers, co-equal branches of government. Look at this tense exchange. It's amazing.
Why are you keeping information from Congress?
Congressman, I'm not keeping any information from Congress that it's appropriate.
In a few minutes, Mr. Rosenstein, I think the House of Representatives is going to say something different.
I don't agree with you, Congressman. I don't believe that's what they're going to say, and if they do, they'll be mistaken.
I disagree, but I think in a few minutes the House of Representatives is going to go on record saying you haven't complied with requests from a separate and equal branch of government, that you haven't complied with subpoenas, and you got 7 days to get your act together. I think that's what's going to happen in a few. And that's not Jim Jordan. I think that's a majority of the House of Representatives. In just a few minutes, I think that's going to happen. And I want to know why you won't give us what we've asked for.
Sir, I certainly hope that your colleagues are not under that impression. That is not accurate, sir. And
it is accurate. We have caught you hiding
Mr. Chairman, can we allow the witness to answer?
Following that exchange, the House did, in fact, pass a resolution demanding that Rosenstein comply with the document requests in 7 days, or they do face the possibility, first, of contempt and even impeachment. And by the way, the president can demand at some point everything be handed over, and that will then be a matter of law. Now, in terms of the president has that power. One of the issues at play here, the House investigation into possible coordination between the Clinton campaign and the FBI's initiation of that so-called Trump-Russia, which we now know to be witch hunt. One of the small part of the scandal surrounds Bruce and Nellie Orr. Look right there, 2016. Nellie was conducting the research for the Clinton campaign. Remember Fusion GPS? Right alongside ex-foreign spy, foreign national Christopher Steele, Visa Fusion GPS, all while her husband Bruce, a high-ranking DOJ official, was the federal government's point of contact for the same Christopher Steele. Now, Rod Rosenstein is saying he was totally unaware of the connection. Really? I don't believe that. Take a look.
You said earlier Bruce Orr was not working on the Russia investigation. Let me ask you,
to my knowledge.
To your knowledge, did you not know that Bruce Orr was meeting with Christopher Steele, getting the information about the dossier and supplying that information to the FBI at the same time his wife Nellie was working for Fusion GPS that was helping Hillary Clinton? Did you not know he was doing that for the FBI?
Correct.
You did not know that?
Correct.
Okay, so he officed a couple of doors down, but you had no idea that he was actually the go-between to get that information.
Another key question was asked by Florida Congressman Ron DeSantis, and it's a question we have now been asking right here on this show for months. Why hasn't Rod Rosenstein recused himself from the Mueller witch hunt? Now, notice a lot of what you're hearing tonight should be recognizable to you because we have been reporting this for a long time, and it was all true. Take a look.
You appointed Mueller, you're supervising Mueller, and it's supposedly about collusion between Trump's campaign and Russia and obstruction of justice, but you wrote the memo saying that Comey should be fired, and you signed the FISA extension for Carter Page. So my question is to you, it seems like you should be recused from this more so than Jeff Sessions, just because you were involved in making decisions affecting both prongs of this investigation. Why haven't you done that?
Congressman, I can assure you that if it were appropriate for me to recuse, I'd be more than happy. to do so and let somebody else handle this, but it's my responsibility to do it. And all I can tell you, sir,
then how do you have obstruction of justice possibility for a president exercising his powers to fire an FBI director that you said should be fired? And oh, by the way, the IG report makes it clear Jim Comey should have been fired. So why are we still doing this with the Mueller probe?
Sir, I am not commenting on what is under investigation by the Mueller probe, and to the best of my knowledge, neither is Mr. Mueller.
And here we are, finally 407 long days into Mueller's fishing expedition. Congressman Trey Gowdy, South Carolina, confronting Rod Rosenstein with what we've all been thinking. Watch this from today.
Russia attacked this country. They should be the target, but Russia isn't being hurt by this investigation right now. We are. This country is being hurt by it. We are being divided. We've seen the bias. We've seen the bias. We need to see the evidence. If you have evidence of wrongdoing by any member of the Trump campaign, present it to the damn grand jury. If you have evidence that this president acted inappropriately, present it to the American people. There's an old saying that justice delayed is justice denied. I think right now all of us are being denied. Whatever you got, finish it the hell up, because this country is being torn apart.
Finish it the hell up. That's right. Bob Mueller, Weissman, Jeannie Ray, are you guys watching what you've done to the country, what you're doing to the country? Now, Rod Rosenstein, really? When does this witch hunt end? And Rod, it's your constitutional duty, checks and balances, co-equal branches, to provide members of Congress with the subpoenaed documents and information they need so they can do their job and check your department. In 7 days from today, if the DOJ continues this obstruction, I urge every single member of the House to now take action to, yes, move to contempt, and yes, impeachment. Enough is enough. Trey Gowdy was right. And, of course, many Democrats are just perfectly fine with DOJ obstruction. Their friends in the deep state have a lot to hide. Now, meanwhile, as Robert Mueller's witch hunt is producing literally zero evidence that the president ever did anything wrong, well, the people on the left, they are now predictably beginning to unravel. And their favorite new target, the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, that's doing the jobs that Congress passed, their laws. Now, throughout the week, hundreds of left-wing protesters, they, quote, occupied ICE offices all across multiple cities, forcing some to actually temporarily close their doors. And these demonstrators blocked entrances. They obstructed ICE employees. They attempted to camp out in front of the building. The Hill reported many protesters celebrated the news that their occupation actually prompted delays in some operations at the center. But, quote, this may result in some immigrants being detained for weeks longer than expected. Great job. And this all culminated today in Washington, D.C., where 575 people were arrested after literally storming the Hart Senate building. Now, multiple Democratic lawmakers, they were in attendance, including one congresswoman from Washington who was actually arrested. Now, sadly, this anti-ICE rhetoric from the left on TV is even far worse. Watch this.
I think there's no question that we've got to critically re-examine ICE and its role and the way that it is being administered and the work it is doing, and we need to probably think about starting from scratch.
I think we need to abolish ICE. That seems really clear. They have strayed so far from the interests of the American people and the interests of humanity. We need to abolish it.
Eliminating ICE, for instance, and President Trump.
Yes.
ICE isn't doing what it was created to do. It's being used as his own personal police force, and in those actions, it's actually making us less safe.
What you heard is right. The left, Democrats in this country, literally want to abolish ICE, proving exactly what we now have been telling you for a long time. This election is the most important midterm in your life. And if Democrats win this November, this is what they're pushing for. I've been telling you, they want to impeach Donald Trump, but don't tell anybody. Keep it secret. Maxine, stop saying it. Next, they want to keep Obamacare. How's that working out for you? And, of course, they want to make sure that you get paid less. They're actually campaigning and saying publicly they want to repeal the Trump tax cut and raise your taxes. And, of course, as you see, they want open borders. They do not want a wall. And number 5, they want to destroy whoever the president picks to replace Justice Kennedy on the U.S. Supreme Court. No vision, no betterment of the American people at all. Democrats have no agenda, no real plan for improving this country, helping the forgotten men and women. So their playbook is all too predictable. It's the one they use every 2 and 4 years. A campaign to smear, slander, besmirch, assassinate the character of any Trump Republican and anyone who stands in their way. And we're already seeing this in the media after Justice Kennedy announced his retirement, as I predicted last night. Take a look.
If you are LGBTQ, if you are a person of color, if you are a woman, so basically if you are not a straight white male in America right now, you are probably freaking out.
We're looking at a destruction of the Constitution of the United States.
We're not screwed. We're actually screwed for generations.
Clean air and water that you use and breathe is at stake.
You're only 81. You know, they say 81 is the new 79. And don't tell me your mind's going, because I read Bush v. Gore and Citizens United. You never had one.
We are looking down the tunnel of potentially criminal liability for women who are seeking to make decisions about their own bodies.
It's time for Democrats to throw down. And what I mean by that is that we've been playing by the rule book, and Donald Trump and Republicans have been playing by street rules. We need to play by street rules.
Don't allow a vote on this. Don't have a hearing. Don't have a meeting. Don't let anything go forward. Don't play ball with this decision.
Oh, told you. Now, if you think that's bad, it gets even worse. Look at this disturbing image from the Huffington Post. By the way, viewer warning, this is pretty disturbing. A clothes hanger with the words of "the end of Roe." Also, I predicted last night. Think that's bad? And there's Whoopi Goldberg over at ABC's hit show The View. Another viewer warning. What you're about to see and hear is pretty graphic. Take a look.
I don't like this line that I, as a Democrat or an independent or whatever, is trying to take away anything from you. I'm trying to hold on to my personal rights so that you can have the rights you want. See, because if you take mine, I feel like you're the one with the problem. If you take my right away from me to judge what I do for my family and my body, I got a little problem with that. You got a problem. You don't want people to take your guns. Well, get out of my behind. Get out of my vagina. Get out.
Once again, the media lying about President Trump. The exact same tactics the left used against President Reagan and, as I showed you last night, Judge Robert Bork. The same kind of smear campaign used against Justice Clarence Thomas. All of this, and President Trump hasn't nominated anybody yet. And you better believe the tactics from the left are going to get much worse every day from now to Election Day. Let me just warn you, hold on tight, buckle up. And yeah, your voice needs to be heard in November. We're going to tell you all the key races. Now, without a doubt, this will be the most consequential midterm election in our lifetime. Now, coming up, we have Greg Jarrett, we have Sarah Carter. Later on, yes, he's here. And I will be a guest on his show Sunday night. But the great one, Mark Levin, is in the house. Stay with us. Joining us now to react to Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein's appearance on Capitol Hill today. Well, there she is, Fox News investigative reporter and contributor Sarah Carter. See that book? Now, early July, it's out. You can pre-order it on Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com. Hannity.com has the link. The Russia Hoax. It will be the definitive book. The illicit scheme to clear Hillary Clinton and frame Donald Trump. Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett. We'll start with you from the legal standpoint. I captured a lot of inconsistencies, and I know you did.
Well, one could say they were lies by Rod Rosenstein. For example, he denied ever threatening members of the Intelligence Committee and the staff in a January 10th meeting in which he threatened to get his hands on their emails, texts, and phone records.
That's a little scary, isn't it, in America?
I talked to two people who were in on that meeting. They used the word threaten, and that he said he was threatening to obtain those texts and emails and so forth. So that did not appear to be terribly truthful by him. He also wasn't truthful when he said, I'm not withholding any evidence of subpoenaed records. Well, his own letters refusing to turn over the documents or evidence that he's withholding, and yet he said, I'm not withholding. There wasn't a lot of truth in Rod Rosenstein today.
Let me go get your initial reaction, Sarah Carter.
I think that when Representative Trey Gowdy questioned him and made his statement saying, if you have any evidence of this, Rod Rosenstein, let's just get it out right now. Stop dragging the American public, this administration and our country through the mud. If you have evidence that anything happened with the Trump administration, with President Trump, you know, get it out there. Let us know what it is. But he never once has done that. And if you look at the IG report, Sean, and you look at what happened today on Capitol Hill and how he evaded and avoided questions, and I tell you, Greg is 100% right. I've spoken to similar sources who have been in those backroom meetings with Rod Rosenstein.
I spoke to one person, too, that was personally the victim of the temper tantrum.
Absolutely.
A direct conversation that was relayed to me.
So Rod Rosenstein flat out lied. He lied to Congress and he lied to the American people. And we just got to call a spade, call it what it is. And if you look at the IG report, I want to go back to that really quick. And we look at Strzok himself. I was looking at it in more detail and talking with some sources tonight. And, you know, there's one point where Strzok tries to explain the insurance policy question. Remember in August, that text message that he sent to Lisa Page about having an insurance policy and talking with Andy McCabe. And he explains it away as saying, well, we were talking about how aggressive we were going to be or how overt we were going to be with this investigation. And when I was talking to FBI sources about this, they said that is so telling, because at that moment in time when he let that out to Horowitz, when he made that statement, he was basically saying, we're going to go after Trump, even if it means going after the people around him, even if it means putting disinformation out there in the media, even if it means arresting people for crimes that were committed 10 years ago. Maybe they're not even crimes, but just giving that aura around the president. So the chaos here really has been the FBI and the people on the 7th floor and the DOJ, and not even so much the Russians anymore.
Well
I mean,
said.
the real chaos in our country is coming from them.
You know, Rosenstein said, I'm not trying to hide anything. And I just made a short list and I wrote it down before the show. Okay, we'll stop Trump. They hid that from everybody for a period of time, or he withheld the fact that Strzok was a personal friend of Judge Rudolph Contreras, which you mentioned on this program last night. They refused to initially. Remember, he begged up to the last minute Paul Ryan not to release what became the Nunes memo, which told us about FISA abuse. The DOJ tried to hide from Congress the fact that two of the most important investigators on both the Hillary and Russia probes were vehemently anti-Trump. He didn't want that out either. And remember, December 2017, 5 months after Strzok and Page were shoved out the door, it was the Inspector General that released the Strzok Page text. And that's only a short list, Greg.
And what did Rosenstein say of the behavior of Peter Strzok today? He called it inappropriate, which has to be the most colossal understatement of all time, especially when you consider the IG said that this is a man who had a willingness to abuse his position of power to influence an election. And to Rod Rosenstein, it's just inappropriate.
The things that stand out, we all three of us have talked to at least one person. I've talked to one, you talked to two. Sarah, how many sources do you have about his temper and that he made the threat that he denied today?
I have at least 4 sources.
4 sources, okay. Well, yes. You're working harder than both Greg and I. But then his refusal to recuse himself. Then Strzok's actions, as you just pointed, highly inappropriate. No, that would be rigging an investigation to influence a presidential election. And as your book says, a scheme to clear Hillary and frame Trump. That's what happened.
Rosenstein said today, if it's appropriate, I'll recuse myself. It was appropriate
a long
time ago. He is a witness, investigator, prosecutor, judge, and jury, all rolled into one.
Say that again. He was the witness?
Key witness, investigator. He's supervising the prosecution, which makes him a prosecutor, and he's also the judge and jury because he decides whether any charges would be brought.
Why is he only mad at me by name and not you and Sarah? Frankly, I'm taking all the heat for you.
We're feeling a little jealous, Sean.
Sarah, they tried to steal an election. They tried to undermine it to favor one candidate and screw the other candidate. That's why this matters, and why the rest of the media would ignore this story, I don't know.
Sean, it matters because they weaponized They weaponized our tools of law enforcement, the NSA, the CIA, the FBI, and everything else. I mean, this is such an enormous investigation. We haven't even talked about the unmaskings yet. So they weaponized the tools. I know, and they weaponize. We need to get back to that. We need to have answers. If the United States is going to move forward, if we're going to clean up our system, our FBI and our intelligence agencies, we need to know what happened, and the truth needs to come out, and the people that abused it need to be removed.
One of the most striking moments occurred today when he was asked about Mueller's, not one, but two glaring conflicts of interest that are disqualifying Rosenstein. So I don't know of any conflict of interest with Mr. Mueller. He apparently doesn't read newspapers because dozens and dozens of law professors and lawyers have written a myriad of columns explaining the disqualifying conflicts of interest of Robert Mueller. But Rosenstein is either a modern-day Machiavelli or he is the most oblivious person to ever hold such a high position.
Somebody said to me today, and I really believed them when they said this. They said, hey, you're trying to do this because you're undermining Mueller. I said, you're missing the whole story. But the more important thing that they said here is they don't get it, that they really believe that these guys, and I'll throw this to Sarah, that they actually think that they were better, smarter, and that they think they're the super patriots, and that we, the people, are stupid, and that they knew better, which is why they had to save Hillary and had to undermine Trump. But now they're caught.
And they undermined the American people. They undermine the system that our nation is founded on, Sean. And just look at the most disparaging comments that Strzok and Page said about people that shop at Walmart, the American people in Pennsylvania.
No, I can smell them.
I can
shop at
smell
Walmart.
them.
You're probably smelling
I mean, there's
me.
nothing more disgusting. Well, no, there's nothing more disgusting than thinking that you know everything. Than thinking that you know everything. And that's the reason why President Trump won. Let's be honest. People were sick and tired of being told they weren't smart enough, they're not good enough, they don't know what to do. And you know what? The American people said, you know what? We are smart enough, we are good enough, and we don't really care what you have to say because we live in this country and we're going to vote for who we want to vote for. And if Trump hadn't have won, if Trump would not have won this election, think about what the alternative would be. We would never know what happened.
Fox.com, please mark that Sarah monologue. You get the last word.
People like Rosenstein and Comey and Strzok and Lisa Page and McCabe and the whole gang are a symbol of corruption and how absolute power corrupts absolutely.
We haven't been wrong on one thing, have we?
Not yet.
Not yet. It's scary. And the media has ignored it. Frankly, you guys deserve Pulitzer Prizes. Amazing. I can't wait for your book. Sarah, great job as always. When we come back, don't touch that dial. All right, joining us with reaction to the predictable left-wing, response to the ongoing Supreme Court opening. He is the host of CRTV's Levin TV, the host of the #1 show, Sunday nights, 10 p.m. It's called Life, Liberty, and Levin. I call him the Great One. All right, before we get into it, we do have a big announcement. Do you want to say it or shall I, Mr. Great One, sir?
I'll say it. I'm pregnant. No, I actually...
Mark has just been appointed to the Supreme Court. Yeah, that'll scare the crap out of everybody that's on the left.
Well, I just self-identified. Well, you know, you are my guest on Life, Liberty, and Levin, so we're going to kind of switch roles where I interview for an hour.
By the way, that role reversal thing is a little weird for me. I think it's a great show. Thank you for having me, by the way. All right, Mark, Liberty, you're probably best known for your massive runaway bestseller, and all your books have been #1 bestsellers, but Liberty and Tyranny. But I remember you wrote a book called Men in Black. And long before anybody else, you talked about this, what the left can't accomplish in an election, what they can't accomplish ever legislatively. They want to ignore separation of powers, co-equal branches. They'll cite foreign law, and they literally want things legislated from the bench. You have been way ahead of the curve, but this president wants to choose an originalist. I want you to go through their reaction to this opening now, what it means for the country.
First of all, I want Americans to understand that the progressive ideology, which you hear on the left, is incompatible with constitutionalism. And so they've turned the Supreme Court, for them, into a Politburo, into a all-powerful, centralized political operation where they want to control a majority of the seats. You notice they don't talk about upholding the Constitution as written. You notice they don't talk about this article, this provision, this section, this clause of the Constitution. When you hear them yap away on the other networks, they're talking about abortion on demand, same-sex marriage, Obamacare, open borders. They give you the same left-wing agenda as if they're running for president or running for the Senate that they want in a judicial nominee. That's not how it works. So we don't want a conservative, we don't want a liberal, we want a constitutionalist. A constitutionalist is somebody who has sworn to uphold the Constitution, looks at the Constitution, looks at the words, takes them in context, tries to figure out what the original intent was, and applies it. And the parties before the Supreme Court have a right to expect that that's what the justices will do. What the Democrats are telling the President of the United States is if you don't nominate Ruth Bader Ginsburg in one form or another, we're going to oppose whomever you nominate. So the Republicans are going to have to steamroll the Democrats, and that's okay. The Democrats have politicized this process where they don't even make any sense. They used to support filibustering it. Now they oppose filibustering it. They used to oppose a nomination with 1 year left in the presidency. Now they support it or they don't support it. Now they oppose it when it's midterm elections. In other words, forget about Schumer, forget about the Democrats, forget about their agenda, and let us uphold the Constitution with our nomination. And I think this president, more than most, understands that. He ran for office. He had his list. He was extremely transparent. Hillary Clinton didn't have a list because the nation collectively would have puked, quite frankly. But this president had his list. He has tremendous candidates on this list. And he said, I'm going to choose from this list. So the left has every opportunity to dig up whatever they can on these various candidates, and the president's sticking to the list. And this is very, very important. The Supreme Court is not supposed to be more powerful than the other two branches of government. It's supposed to be independent from them. Justices are appointed for life because they're not to be political. It's gotten way out of whack. And under the left, it'll be more out of whack. Here's the attitude of the progressives, who really used to attack the Constitution, you know, as written by a bunch of white men who owned slaves. Now they pretend to support it. Here's the position of the left, basically. They want to enshrine their ideology into the Constitution. When they say you have to support precedent, they don't really believe that. Dred Scott upholding slavery, that was precedent. Plessy versus Ferguson, segregation, that was precedent. Korematsu, the internment of Japanese Americans, that was precedent. Do they support that precedent? No, what they mean is the most radical decisions of the Supreme Court, that's what they want to compel, that's what they believe in. Not the Constitution, but the leftist direction that leftist courts have taken the Constitution.
I don't even know what year you wrote Men in Black. I assume that it's out in print.
2005, I think.
And I just, look, one of the reasons we became friends, and I think we go into this a little bit, I don't remember the whole discussion, but Mark, we became friends because of issues. And I'm going to tell a little bit of the story, is with all due respect to you, I had to twist your arm to fill in for me on radio, twist your arm to do a weekend show, twist your arm to do it 6 to 8, then 6 to 9, then syndicate. And to be honest, it's been years I've been twisting your arm to come on this TV show. And now you're here, and now you flipped it, and now I have to do your show. But the thing is, what brought us together is our belief in conservatism.
I agree. But I want your viewers to know something, because we just did this interview. I want the viewers to know more about you than when you're on TV. And that's what we're doing in this interview. You've got a wonderful background. You've got a great sense of humor. You're one of the most decent human beings I know. You're under constant attack from the left. Hold on now. You gave me $20. I got to finish. You're under constant attack from the left. And I want the people to know really the real Sean Hannity, and that's what's going to happen.
By the way, I did something that a lot of politicians and liberals do. Mark would try to get me to talk about me, and I kept talking about issues. And finally, he's like, now, stop it. Talk about you. Mark, your love of this Constitution has been your life study. I mean this. I absorb this because this is important. I swear, if we don't get this right, we're going to lose this country. We talk about rule of law, equal application of our laws, our constitutional form of government, the foundation of all our laws, and you have been an intellectual heavyweight on all of this. Thank you.
Let me just say one thing.
Last thing, yeah.
On the
Not about
Supreme
me.
Court.
No.
The progressives don't own the Supreme Court. They don't own seats on the Supreme Court. When they talk about the Supreme Court's going to move hard to the right, it doesn't move hard to the right. You either believe in the Constitution or you don't. We define everything through the left. We see everything through the left. Stop. We want candidates who are going to uphold the Constitution, not drive their political agenda through the Constitution.
You like Mike Lee.
I would support, if the president's watching, Mike Lee is your best choice. That's my humble opinion. I think he would be absolutely outstanding.
I think Mike Lee would be an outstanding justice, and he's brilliant. I thought he would be a great choice. Mark, Life, Liberty, and Levin, every Sunday night, the #1 show on cable at 10 Eastern on Sundays, and I'm unfortunately the guest, and he beats me up this Sunday night. Hope you'll watch. Dan Bongino, Geraldo Rivera, next.
Nation of ICE. We don't want ICE anymore. You know what would happen to parts of our country? It would be overrun with the worst criminal elements you have ever seen.
All right, that was the president last night at a rally in North Dakota, hammering Democrats for their destruction of ICE. Here now, former Secret Service agent, NRA TV contributor Dan Bongino, author of the bestseller, The Geraldo Show, Fox News correspondent at large, Geraldo Rivera. Geraldo, we have more details now on the shooter that just developed. Let me read this to you if I can. Yeah, I wear glasses. They don't want me to wear them on TV. Too bad. Maryland law enforcement, they've identified him. I won't give the name out, Geraldo, but here's what we know tonight that we did not know earlier. He lost a defamation case that he brought against this newspaper in 2015, and over a 2011 column, he contended defamed him. So obviously disgruntled with the paper, the column provided an account of his guilty plea to criminal harassment of a woman on social media. By the way, police were there in 60 seconds, Geraldo. That's how great they are. He was not cooperating with investigators. He had canisters of smoke grenades he used inside the building. He was prepared. He obviously premeditated this evil to shoot people. I mean, they're just as evil. Look, I want to say one thing. It really is infuriating. As harsh as I've been against Maxine Waters, these are separate issues, and her call to confront people. This is separate and apart, as I said 10 times on my radio show today. The language is getting out of control. But there was a race today to say, well, just because the president says fake news and he believes, and as I do, that the media lies, they almost were trying to say, wow, I wonder if this is a Trump supporter. If somebody listened to any of these crazy people on the left and did something horrible, you blame the person. Words do matter, though. But the president saying fake news is not bad because they do lie constantly.
First of all, I salute the law enforcement in Maryland who were there within 60 seconds. 5 are dead. It was a horrible, horrible event. And yet, if 2 minutes had gone by, or 3 or 4, or if the cops chickened out the way they did down in Parkland High School, it could have been a far worse massacre. So God bless the cops in Maryland who did what they had to do. Also, shame on everybody, right and left, who blamed what happened today in Maryland on the civility dispute, the debate over this one saying you do this, you bad, and you. It had nothing to do with that. It was a guy with a beef, a guy with a grudge, a specific grudge, who warned the newspaper over social media, threatened them, and then carried out his hideous attack. So it had nothing to do with political philosophy. This was a beef between a deranged, despicable, murderous SOB who went and vented against the newspaper he claimed had defamed him.
And if it's the left or the right, Geraldo, it doesn't matter. Words at the end of the day, they're dangerous, but people, Dan Bongino, are responsible for their own actions. And that I would encourage people to tone it down a little bit. But honestly, this is, there's one idiot on CNN, a moment many journalists have feared. And you know what they're implying there. They're implying if you say fake news and call these people out for being really liars and an extension of the Democratic Party, And left-wingers, oh, that somehow is a motivation for somebody. No, it's not. That's just telling the truth, actually.
You know, Sean, Twitter today was an absolute cesspool. The obsession with some people to jump to a narrative, to tell a story right away, before anybody's even had a chance to mourn, or, Sean, even worse, even had the chance to get the facts. By the way, I was on your radio show. You went through great lengths to put in, what, 5 or 6 caveats that you were not connecting the two. You were making a point, I was there, that yes, the rhetoric has gotten hot. And I said in response, we could all take the temperature down. There's no doubt about it. But of course, what happens? Instead of trying to solve the problem, they jump down your throat, they write the ridiculous op-eds, and what happens? Nobody talks, Sean, ever. It just becomes a shouting match in both directions. It's really sad, this obsession with narratives over facts. You know, Twitter, I had to log off. I haven't tweeted in 2 hours. I can't take it.
I honestly, Geraldo, I tweet out only news and information for the most part now. It is a cesspool. I mean, it's gotten, you know, through anonymity, and you sit in your basement in your underwear, you can say anything you want.
Right, that's absolutely true. And there's no governor on social media. It just it's puke coming out of too many mouths. It's really disgusting. I have to say this about ICE, though. The story we were booked to talk about, it is not merely the hundreds of protesters who were arrested today around the country who want to, if not abolish, then severely reform ICE. Today, ICE is divided into the Homeland Security investigations and the enforcement and removal operations. The Homeland Security investigations are the guys that go after the gangbangers and the drug cartels. The majority of them wrote a letter to the boss today, to the Homeland Security Secretary, suggesting that ICE be split in two, and that the guys that go after the gangbangers be separated, men and women be separated from those who remove the citizen, otherwise law-abiding, undocumented immigrant, hardworking, like the people from the gardening company here in Ohio. 146 of them were arrested. I think the agency could conceivably be split because the backlash for that horrible family separation is not just among civilians, it is even among the agents themselves, Sean.
All right, thank you both for being with us. And you know what? I feel so sorry for these families tonight. Just evil, this premeditated evil. More Hannity after this. And this will take place in the next hour. Be sure to tune in for that. They have the latest details. As we said, it looks like a lawsuit, disgruntled. He lost. He went after the paper. Motives, really, when you think about it, it doesn't matter. It's just evil. And the evil manifests itself in so many forms. We pray for the families tonight, those who lost loved ones, those who are healing in hospitals tonight. Thank you for being with us. We'll always be fair and balanced, and we're not to destroy